All right, so here we go. You guys were heading back into town to go to the saloon to try to gamble and earn some new diamonds, or earn back the same diamonds you had previously, I guess you would say. You time-wise weren't necessarily thinking too much about this, but as you guys round the kind of the alley between the general store and one of the other buildings in town there, heading straight towards the saloon, right through the middle of the street there, you look up and see Lily through the doorway, blasting something. She's holding something in her hand that from this distance you can't quite tell, because as soon as it goes off, you hear this thwump sound that Peter immediately recognizes as some kind of an arcane missile, and then see one of these purple kerchiefed guys get blasted out the front of the doorway, landing in the dirt in front of you in the middle of the street there, as you guys are kind of making your way across there, just coming towards the street yourselves. And as soon as she does, there is a noise from the building beside you. You guys are just coming, basically you're between a building you don't really know anything about and the general store, and you hear thump, thump, thump inside the general store as something inside is moving. So what are you guys doing?
Alright, still gonna go into the saloon still. See if dude's still there. What? Or do we want to go back to the jail?
I think we should probably check out McDudson.
Okay.
McDudson in the middle of the road?
No, McDudson in the saloon.
Oh, Edwin?
Simons?
Okay.
Yeah, Edwin with the gambling.
Okay. As soon as you guys step out onto the road, then you hear Wallace from right beside you stepping out of the general store, and he looks. You hear him kind of shout out to you. I thought you guys were going to stay in the jail.
We heard the commotion. We just come to see what was going on, make sure everybody was okay.
You see the bird look towards the alley and then look back at you and says, "Well, I mean, you came from over here. I didn't see you coming from the jail. That commotion didn't just happen." You can try rolling it you can try rolling a deception, but you'd be at a disadvantage. He's not going to believe it when he just watched you, come out of the alleyway.
Yeah, that ain't gonna. Alright, so what do you guys want to do? Want to ask him if we can mess around in the saloon for a minute? Well, not mess around, but get a drink real quick. But see if we can find Edwin.
Yeah, let's try and get out there.
Okay.
Since Ben, you're still loading in, I guess roll it. I'll just use your I'll just roll it for you actually for your persuasion.
Cool.
Let's see. Well, you rolled a 14 plus 4 is an 18. So because you were kind of polite to him before, and he wasn't, too worried or suspicious of you guys when you went to the jail before, he says, "All right, well, I mean, it seems like there's something going on in the saloon anyways. I was going to go over there myself, so I might as well just go in with you. We can get you guys a drink." He says, "I should have been more hospitable in the first place and offered you guys a drink as warm as it is in here anyway, so let's head on over." And he joins you guys in the street as you're walking your way over towards the saloon. As you're just going straight in? You guys aren't doing anything else or looking around or anything?
Just gonna glance over the clock if I could see it.
For what time it is?
Let's head in.
Yeah.
It is 11:16. So you guys keep making your way towards the saloon. Then you step up onto the deck, and as you're coming through the doorway, you guys are ahead, and Wallace is kind of politely letting you guys go first because he's so big he kind of takes up a lot of space. But as you kind of step through the doorway, you see that the other guy who you had seen earlier at the bar, the other ruffian, has a knife in his hand that he has pointed at Lily. And is threatening her. He's obviously, she's far enough away from him. He's not going to stab her. He's probably 8 feet away, but he's pointing the knife in her direction, just shouting at her. And as you've come up, you just heard him say "drink." And he said something else, but you were moving along and talking to Wallace. You didn't hear the rest of the sentence. You just hear "drink" as he's kind of pointing it at her. G, is it because I see you connected? So I don't see. Is it at the character select screen or something?
My computer's lagging too because you're.
Yeah, you guys are all robotic for a second. Restart your laptop, G. Becky, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear you just fine.
Okay, restart your laptop, Ben. Shit, then he won't be able to hear me either. How... Ben, say something.
I'll be right back.
Okay. Becky can... I don't wanna wait, so I guess we'll fill him in. We'll Jaeger Ben for a second, okay? Becky, you can essentially play Ben's character as needed for a minute, or tell him, or whatever. Since he's there, you can just tell him if we need something from him. That work?
Okay. Yeah.
All right, cool. You guys kind of step inside, and this other guy, this other ruffian, is pointing a knife at her and demanding a drink, is what it sounds like, as you guys have just come in through the door. Wallace is coming in behind you, but you have a minute to react or do something first. So what are you guys doing?
I guess if we're all going in and we see this happening, just kind of interrupt the little knife situation. Tell him what's going on. Whoa, whoa, whoa! Slow down.
He turns towards you, pointing the knife in your direction. Also, again, not necessarily... Obviously, it's a threatening gesture, but he doesn't look like he's actually going to try to stab anybody or anything else. He's just basically... looks like he's... You definitely see a very strong sense of frustration and anger on his face. You say that, and he's kind of just snapped towards you, just kind of wide-eyed. And then over your shoulder, you see his eyes kind of glance up over your shoulder, and he sees Wallace, and immediately drops the knife. It just kind of clatters at his feet. Are you doing anything else, either Becky or Navarra or Peter?
No, not the second.
Navarra?
Hey, I'm trying to help him fix his computer. It looks like it died.
Should have shipped that other machine by now already. Oh, was the battery dying?
No, he's got it plugged in, but he went to go restart it, and it looked like it was trying to boot up, and then the whole thing just went blank.
Is the power cord loose?
No, it's in there. Yeah, the laptop's dead. It keeps trying to restart, and then it just dies.
Hold the power button down. Just hold it down all the way, and don't let up until everything goes blank. Here, let me call Ben real quick so I can hear, so that you can hear me. Okay, alright, so hold the power button down on the laptop and unplug it. Sorry, Sako.
That's no problem, dude.
At least we have longer today to, get a little, well, longer than we have recently anyways, to get a little further in. So the extra troubleshooting hasn't, completely ruined this session.
That's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. No, don't let up on it. I want you to hold the power button down until I tell you to let up, basically, and unplug the power cord. And now everything should be completely off, no lights, right? All right, well then go ahead with the power unplugged, take the battery out. So flip it over. And there might be, I don't remember if that one has a little lock thingy, so look for like a little switch that goes left or right, and it has a lock icon on it. Set it to the unlocked position and then slide the battery out.
Okay. Well, it's asking me if I want one of those here.
No, just go ahead and finish this first. Take the battery out. Yeah, take the battery out. Yep.
Okay.
I don't want it to restart or anything in the middle, so sounds like the battery is probably loose. So just leave the battery out.
Where's it? Do I need to screw?
Nope. There's just, the battery should be at near the back of it, but there should be a little left or right switch, like a thing that you would move left or right with a little lock icon on it. Huh?
This one?
Most of them Yeah, you push it to one side and then the battery will slip out. Did you get it?
Yeah,
Cool.
I did.
All right, so leave the battery off, plug the power back in. You can like set it back up, like set it back to where you're going to play. Plug the power back in and then turn it back on.
Isn't that supposed to go all the way in?
No, no.
I think it's an aftermarket one. It's not the power supply that came with it, I think, so probably doesn't fit in all the way. Some of the third-party ones don't.
Sorry, back up there.
Cool. All right, that's going to take a minute for everything to load up. We'll go on real quick until you're like all the way logged in, and then once you're back in Discord, then we'll hang up. That work?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so you can still hear me over the phone. So, all right, Becky, Sako, you guys can hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yep. Good.
Cool. All right, let's go on then. I'll leave the music off for a minute. So you guys have stepped in. The guy just dropped his knife. It is down at the... Oh, I guess Ben didn't hear that part. But basically, you guys all stepped inside the saloon. The guy that was holding a knife at Lily, not like close to her. He's still too far away. He's not actually, going to stab her. Doesn't look like he was going to throw it at her or anything like that. But looks like he was demanding a drink. You guys have stepped inside. Peter called out to him to say, hey, calm down. He turned and kind of pointed the knife at you guys. Then he sees Wallace. He drops the knife on the ground. And then that's it. So are you guys doing anything in the moment beyond that?
No, just gonna feel it out, see what happens.
Okay. Ketis doing anything?
No.
Okay. All right, you're fine. All right, so Wallace says, "Oh shit," and he kind of reaches one big, rocky hand in front of you. And remember, he's much, much taller than you, so his arm, like where his elbow is like head height for you guys. So he kind of just kind of carefully pushes you guys to one side. Inside, you're already through the door, but he's basically moving you over, outside the doorway so that he can walk through. Well, you're just inside the doorway rather, but kind of moving you off to the side. And he steps through, and you see him stomp over to where you can, like, he's so big that he's blocking this guy. You can't see the guy, the ruffian that he's approaching, and you see his arm kind of snap out, and he looks like he's grabbing the guy in the purple kerchief, and then turns around, and you can see now that he's holding this guy up. He's basically got the front of his shirt and is holding this guy up, feet off of the ground. It seems like it doesn't have there's no strain on Wallace to do this. Like, it doesn't look like he's having to flex or anything to try to lift this guy up. It seems like there's no effort for him to carry this guy. But he picks him up, turns around, stomps back through the doorway, and you see him fling the guy through the air. And just like you had seen, from the outside perspective, you'd seen this guy go flying through the air a couple of times now. He flies through the air and lands next to the first one that Lily had knocked out of there. This time he doesn't look to be unconscious. He looks like he's kind of rolling in the dirt in pain, the same way that, like, from just being thrown as the first guy. And they're both kind of beginning to kind of stand up and right themselves. Wallace turns over his shoulder, looks back over to Lily, he says, what was going on, Lily? What were they after? And she, the platinum blonde girl, says, they were just asking for drinks. Yeah, wasn't anything big. All right, G, I see you back in Discord. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, cool. I'm gonna hang up.
I'll start fantasy ground.
Cool. And I can get the music going again. So that's it. That's where you guys are. Now both ruffians have been thrown outside. It is 11:17 at this point. And you are back inside the saloon. What are you guys doing?
Is Edwin over there still?
Yeah. You look over and you do see the guy in the military jacket, the heavy military jacket that looks very out of place in this heat, and then the bald guy with the anchor tattoo on his shoulder and lots of scars. They're both sitting there playing cards. And the kid is plucking a guitar in the corner. And Lily has walked up and is starting to talk to Wallace. Go ahead, Peter.
Oh, I said I'm just going to make my way to the card table, see if I can win some more diamonds.
Sure. So you do you want to do it different, or do you want to fast forward through your earlier game?
Pretty much, if we fast forward, just like yesterday, the outcomes will all be the same.
Cool. Yeah, basically, where it could change, and this is important that all three of you, know this part, So good that Ben can hear again. But where it could change is if, say, you came back and it, like maybe the earthquake had already happened. Well, if that earthquake would have made Edwin get up from his seat and move around, or maybe he left the saloon, then you wouldn't necessarily be able to fast forward through those points. But at least right now, this series of events is similar enough to the one previous that you could fast forward through that same series of events without having to, necessarily re-roll, because the situation hasn't changed very much. Does that make sense? Everybody get that?
Yeah, that makes sense. He would be acting much more differently after a large earthquake. So.
Exactly, yeah. So, and then that might be just for this specific guy, but maybe the earthquake doesn't really affect Hetty that much. Who knows? You know what I mean? So it's not necessarily the same for everybody. It's kind of with common sense of how things suit. But yeah, exactly that he might be a little more, he might be a little more cautious after an earthquake, and maybe he's not playing cards anymore. So if you come in and say, hey, let's play some cards, he might be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, this place just almost caved in on our heads. You know what I mean? So, yeah, you got it. That's it.
I'll just do the same thing then. -1 jar bees and I guess plus 11 diamonds or whatever it was.
Yep. Yeah, they're coins. Well, coins in a rough sense, and they're basically small discs. Some of them are more square, some are more round, but basically chips of diamonds is what they are. They're not pretty. They're not see-through. They don't reflect light like a diamond, like a ring does, or a jeweled diamond. They're literally just crude diamonds, just chunks of mineral. But all right, so you kind of go through your game. You end up at a 21. He ends at a 13. I think the other guy ended at like a 17 or something like that. But you win. You kind of rake this small pile of diamonds over. Edwin thanks you for the game. Says that it's good to see a familiar face, even if he doesn't necessarily know you. It's one of those kind of camaraderie things that any member, especially the same company, is always going to be welcome around him. It seems like. But he shakes your hand again. You've now won your diamonds. What are you guys doing?
Go back up to that.
Back to Mammy?
Yeah.
If Wallace will let us.
Yeah, true.
So Wallace, while that was going on, while Peter was playing cards, actually had asked. Lily was, they were having a little conversation about the guys outside. Those guys have kind of picked themselves up and run off. But Wallace had said, "Hey Lily, these guys just came into town and they're a little thirsty. So do you mind, can we get them a drink?" She says, yeah, no problem, of course. And she goes back behind the counter and she's brought each of you who were just standing there a drink, and then set one in front of Peter while he was playing cards. So you basically, all three of you have, just a half full glass of ale, just a simple ale. It's nice and cold. It's not honeyed, so it's not it's not a mead. It's just a plain ale. But anyways, I mean, you do have something cold to drink basically for the second. So Wallace is kind of trying to, because you guys were polite about it and you didn't necessarily make him mad or make him suspicious, he's getting you the drink that you'd asked for. So getting out of that without going back to the jail, that might be a little tricky. So I'll leave that up to you guys on what you want to do. So what you doing?
We gotta head back to the jail first and then wait till he leaves.
Do I have time to kind of look at something on me?
Yeah, of course. I mean, you have whatever time you want. It's not, nobody can force you to go anywhere. It's just up to you on whether you want to piss off, somebody or something like that. But in this specific circumstance, it doesn't seem like Wallace would be mad at you.
All right, just while everyone's talking and everything like that, can I just take a quick second to look at those breads that we were given? I'll take one out of my pack and see if I can sense any type of magic or any type of arcane.
Roll an Arcana check. G, is that still loading for you? Like, I see you connected a long time ago.
Yeah, well, that's... Yep, Fantasy Grounds is still loading.
Okay.
Apparently. But the screen's up, but it's not responding yet.
All right. That was Animal Handling, Peter. Try Arcana. Which is good, because that was a really crappy roll.
Oh, yeah, my bad.
Oh, good. I need to just get that machine set up to you, G. We can throw that stupid laptop away. That's a better roll. So with that roll, and you checking the honeyed roll that she gave you, you're kind of looking it over thoroughly, and there is the slightest sense that it was baked in an oven. But beyond that, it just seems like a roll. There's nothing magic about it. It's just a tasty roll that she gave you. So you guys just finishing your drink, and then what? What's the plan?
What do you guys think? You want to go back to the jail first, wait till he leaves to sneak off, or try to ask him if we can go to the hut?
Yeah. I think that's a good idea. I'll offer Wallace some of my bread, the bird.
Okay, I like that. That's an interesting. So actually, this time do make an animal handling check. Hopefully, you roll better than a 2.
Oh, gee, do you want to reshare the color scheme? I got straight gray over here.
Yeah. All right. That's
Nice
good.
roll.
All right. Now, did that change for you, G, or is it still gray?
No, it's good. It
Okay,
changed.
cool. All right. I wasn't sure if I would have to take it off and then put it back on for it to work. So, cool. All right, and you're fully in now. I see your character there, so you're all good.
Yeah, I should be good to go.
Cool. All right, let me share the map back to you.
I got it.
All right. All right. Now that we are all back in, then we got another little over half hour, guys. So Sako's got to go about 5. So you hold out a bit to him, and you see the stone face actually kind of. It can't smile really, but you see it like try to smile almost. And the bird has this little chitter, and it kind of dances to one side and then right back to the spot it was in. And it chuckles a little bit, and it says, "I see you've been up to Mammy, huh? So much for hanging out in the jail, I see."
Yeah, we didn't bring the baked goods with us. We can't lie.
He didn't bring enough baked goods.
we didn't bring.
So
Smell the bread.
he's being very because Ketis's roll earlier with his initial persuasion check with him was a good roll, and you guys have been mostly truthful and not been causing any problems as far as he can tell. He's not mad about this, but you did just show him, like literally blatantly showed him right to his face that you did not stay in the jail, that you went up to Mammy and then snuck back around to try to go to the saloon. But he says, well, that's awfully nice of you. I don't get up to Mammy's hut very often, and her rolls are always the best. And he kind of reaches his beak out for the tiny little bit of the bread that you're trying to hold up to him. He's kind of is scarfing it down, and he says, "Thank you." He's just saying thank you as he's trying to swallow this bit of bread that you gave him. So he says, "Always nice to have new friendly folk in town. We don't get new folk, so better that you guys come in and seem like nice people, almost like the kind of people that would live here in the first place." So, all right. Well, now that we've had our refreshments, you guys ready to head off to the sheriff's office?
Sure.
Can I ask if we could walk by Manny's really quick? Since I won a couple of diamonds, I'd like to give her 1 diamond for her time for the bread.
That sounds like a good explanation. Roll a persuasion with advantage. If it was just, can we stop by, it wouldn't be with advantage and might even be disadvantage just because you didn't go where you said before, but because you were, offering to pay her essentially for something she gave you. That's a real good roll. So also generally, by the way, the social ones, so persuasion, deception, insight, things like that, those would and stealth, those are the ones that would normally be in the tower. But in this case, it's fine. Especially with that good roll, it would be fine anyways. He says, you know what, that's only fair, right? I mean, she was nice enough to just give these to you. Sure, we can head on over there first. I mean, I was looking around anyways, and he's already kind of just started to turn to head out the door, with you guys presumably following him. And he's basically just outside the door. He says, I was looking around for Isaac already, and I didn't find him. I checked over at the general store to see if Abernathy had seen him, but it doesn't seem like anybody knows where he's at the moment, so we might as well head off over to Mammy's. Maybe we'll find him on the way. And he's kind of, starting to make his way down the street. You guys following?
Yeah.
Okay. You doing anything else for the trip, or are you just kind of walking your way out there with him? You looking for anything? Watching for anything in particular? Basically, you doing anything on this trip other than just walking?
No.
I'm just keeping an eye out to make sure things are happening the way that we think they should be happening.
Okay. So far, nothing seems to be outside of what you would have expected it to be at this specific time. I'm being careful not to tell you guys the time. I want you guys to be checking for yourselves rather than me just reminding you what time it is all the time. So anyways, everything seems to be kind of in the order you would have expected, I guess. But he walks you kind of up the main street. You're back out in the sun again, and so that drink was really helpful to kind of cool you off a little bit. Walking up the main street and being in the direct sunlight here through the dome. I think of it like, if you're in a real bright sunny day and the sun is coming straight through like a car window and the window's up, how that kind of magnifies the heat to you. That's kind of what it feels like because of that dome. But you kind of make your way out there, still just dead calm, no breeze, no nothing. You make it back out to Mammy's hut. Wallace, as you guys are getting about 10 feet away or so, he stops there. He says, these things can be, kind of private. I know a lot of folk when they come out here to see Mammy, they, want to kind of keep it to themselves. So I'll just stand out here, just give you guys your privacy. You just, you let me know when you're ready to go. You tell Mammy hi for me.
Thank you.
And she would be able to see him. He's standing right outside, but basically he's far enough away that, whatever, if you wanted to keep it private or something, he's not trying to pry. He's trying to just be polite. But you head on over, you knock on the door to go in.
Yep, just knock on it.
Okay. She's singing again, top of her lungs. She heard you guys approaching, and it seems like the volume went down a little bit, just because Wallace is so loud that there's really no him walking around without people knowing where he is. But she waves you guys on in with a big smile. She says, "Did you try those rolls I gave you?"
Yeah, they're good.
She says, "Sure as shit, I know it." And she gives you a big grin. She's missing a couple teeth, but a big happy grin. She says, "I'll give you another one when you're leaving." So did you went into town get some diamonds or something?
Indeed.
Just let her know. Yep.
All right then. Well, let's. I guess we'll kind of catch up where we left off. So who wants to go first?
I guess I think I was one sitting in the chair, right? I was going to.
That you were going to, and then you didn't. So you're going to sit in the chair.
Yeah, why not? Unless one of you guys wants to do it.
Go ahead. I got 11 diamonds.
Okay. So
She says 11 diamonds. That's enough for one big prophecy, one small prophecy. Is that what you guys are wanting?
sure.
Yeah, let's do it.
She says, "All right, well, so these, just to let you know ahead of time, these could be a little bit scary. A lot of folk around here don't have a lot of familiarity with the magic, and things can get a little spooky. So I just want you to know, everything's safe. You're perfectly, nothing's going to happen to you here. There's nothing bad, no demons coming out, nothing like that. It's just a matter of kind of looking into potential futures and what might happen. So I just, wanted to give you that forewarning." She kind of holds her hands up in front of you, like between the two of you. She's specifically looking at Ketis because Ketis is getting ready to sit down. She says, "And these old bony hands, I know these are a little scary for younger folk. You guys, you probably got a few years on you. I don't think you'll be as scared, but I do need to hold your hand. So, just see these. I'm not going to eat you, I promise. I only eat all these baked goods. That's why I'm missing all these teeth." And she kind of lifts one hand up and kind of pulls her mouth open. Those teeth that she already showed you, but pulls her lip back so you can see those missing teeth. She says, "I lose these from eating all them honey buns. I don't eat no children or nothing. So go ahead and have a seat." And she kind of motions to the chair.
All set.
Okay. She sits down across from you, and she says, "All right." So she's got her hands flat out on the table in front of you. She says, "Which one do you guys want first? You want the big one, the small one?"
What do you guys think? Little one first?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. She says, "All right." She takes a big deep breath. She kind of flips her hands over now so that they're palm up. She says, "Hold my hand." You do that?
Okay. I do.
They are very clammy and very cold. Probably the only, other than the ale that you guys drank, feels like probably the only cold thing you have felt anywhere since coming under this dome. Definitely don't feel naturally cold because she's been working in an oven, essentially all day in the hot of this tiny little shack. They should be extremely warm. They should be very hot to the touch. Almost, but they feel cold and not clammy necessarily, but the coldness is a very sharp feeling. Like you almost kind of yank your hands away almost for a second until you kind of just realize that it's just something with her, and you kind of just hold her hands. Sorry, hang on a text here. All right. Anyway, so you're kind of taken aback for a second, but you just hold her hands there, and she says, "All right, so this is the part where it gets a little spooky. So just remain calm. You guys are certainly welcome to watch here. These, often they're kind of private moments, but it sounds like you're all here looking for the same thing. So if that's what you're asking about, that's what we'll try to get some information about." And then she tilts her head back, mouth up, basically face up towards the ceiling. And she closes her eyes, the one milky eye, like the one completely covered in cataract, and the other that's looks very young. Actually, the other eye looks like a mid-20s. Doesn't look like she's in her 80s like the rest of her does. But holding your hand there, she's tilted her head up and she's mouthing something. Her mouth is moving, but there's no sound coming out. And as she does this for a solid 15 or so seconds of this, the room for all three of you, even Peter and Navarra, who are just standing off and watching this, you're standing kind of in front of the oven almost, because the place is so small. The room begins to darken. Like the light in the room is somehow dimmed, despite there not being any means of doing that. There's nothing has gone in front of it, but the whole place seems to get a little bit darker, and the line of strings with crystals hanging off of them are shining with some kind of innate light inside of those crystals. They still don't look valuable or anything beyond them, but there's light coming out of those that did not appear to be previously. And as she's making this silent chanting, where she's mouthing these words that Peter, you from this angle, because she's very small and you're kind of standing up, you can see the mouth, the words that she's mouthing, although she's not vocalizing them, are an incantation. They're arcane in origin. And you don't necessarily... yeah, you don't recognize the spell that she's weaving together, but you do recognize some of the phrases that she's using, and that they are obviously of divination origin. And as she's doing this, the smallest crystal, the one with the shortest string, and then the smallest crystal at the end of it, as she is kind of reaching the crescendo of this spell that Peter, you would recognize at the point at which the spell is being cast, that smallest crystal falls off of the string. The string is still hanging there, but the crystal just disconnects itself somehow, and it falls to the floor and it shatters. And Peter, you hear, or sorry, Ketis rather, you hear this shatter to your left, just at your feet to your left. It falls, behind the table basically. And when it hits the ground, her mouth is no longer moving. You don't see her speaking at all, but there are words coming from it in her own voice, and it says. She says this, but her mouth is not moving. She says, "Jack and June were brought to Dry Gulch by the visitor, and by their sacrifice our town is made safe. But neither Jack nor June nor any alive here in Dry Gulch are safe from the terrible power that the visitor left behind." That's what she says.
Okay.
And as soon as she's finished that, she kind of shakes her head a little bit, and her eyes kind of open up, and she tilts her head back down towards you, and the light kind of resumes to normal. The bright of the room, kind of filled from the roaring fire in the oven there, goes back to the same that it had been. The light from the crystals is kind of dimmed again, back to not having any light coming from it. She shakes her head again, and she looks at you. She says, well, I wasn't really expecting you guys to be looking for a history lesson, but I guess there's some info for you. I hope that's helpful. I mean, does that mean anything to you? I mean, it really didn't mean much to me.
I'm not sure yet, but thank you though.
She says, "That's the least I could do. You folks seem like good people. I always like having nice people in town here. Some folk around here are still a little scared of me, and I can't really say that they don't have much reason. I know I look scary, but I'm real nice. I try." If you guys want to ask her questions about that, you can. She may not know the answers, but you can ask.
Can I take a second and just ask what spell that was? Try to get some information on that spell. I'm interested about that divination.
First, before you do, if you are trying to kind of learn about it a little bit, let's start with how much you knew ahead of time. So roll. It would almost be history for you because you're so kind of innately involved with with divination magic. But I would say, I'll tell you what. I'll let you choose whether you want to use history or arcana.
Or Arcana is fine.
Yep, whichever one you want to use is fine. Let's see. That is... It's one of the variations of a spell that you... Actually, shit, you might... You can... Wait, you can do level 5... it's enchantment. That's the wrong one. It is a higher level version of a spell called Geas, Geas. And you can cast that spell, but you can't cast the variation she was using. There's different versions of that spell. There's different ways to use it, I guess you could say. The type she was using specifically was a kind of like foresight. Do you know what foresight is?
Yeah.
So she was using it kind of like a smaller version of foresight or a greater version of Geas. She was casting it at a higher level than you are familiar with, is all. Which is why you do parts of the spell, but not others.
Okay.
So, but anyways, you can intuit that portion of it, but she may not. I guess. So, are you asking her? Are you just outright asking what spell is that?
Yeah, just asking what spell she was using.
She says, I mean, to be honest, I really don't rightly know. I mean, it was something that my mammy taught to me, and you know, I've always, I guess, just kind of known it. You guys look, you know, like folk from a city, and you probably had some, you know, the kind of training to really teach you how to do these things the right way. Whereas, you know, us folk out here in the country, we just kind of learn, you know, what works, and we just try that. So, I mean, we've always just called it Geas, but I don't really know what it's called in them books.
All right, I'll thank her for the information.
Sure. She kind of waves it away as if it's nothing. She says, all right, so, I mean, that was a small one. You guys ready? You wanted the big one still?
You guys want to switch? Or what?
I don't mind. I mean, I'll sit and we can do the big one.
That works.
Okay. All right, so you guys trade spots. Roll another Arcana check on Peter. That was another animal handling check, which is good because it wasn't a very good roll either. You're going to need to roll a little higher than that.
Sorry, the GUI interface like super small, so the icons are kind of tight.
If you do /scale UI and then set it to 80 or something, or it might, I don't remember. Basically, a number between 50 and 150, I think. You can change the scale, so it's a little easier to read things. It's like I gotta type it in a certain way so that I don't accidentally change my scale. Like that. Anyway, so Peter, you sit down, and yeah, with that roll for sure. When you grab her hands, you have a similar kind of taken aback moment where it feels very cold and very strange, but you instantly recognize that she doesn't have hands. What you're holding there aren't real at all. It's a physical illusion, for lack of a better term. They don't feel, the reason that they feel cold is there's no blood in them because they're not real. You're holding a simulacrum. So they're real in that they do physically exist, but they're not hands. They're something, a lot of her, it seems like, is the impression that you're getting now that you're kind of sitting directly across from her and looking closely at her. She's not really fully there. A lot of her is not real. I guess I'll leave it at that. Is for that check. I mean, that's as much as you could intuit, is that she doesn't really have hands, or at least what she is handing to you are not really her hands.
I'm able to, well, I'm not going to be able to do a quick detect magic on that, especially right now.
Not in the moment. It would be very obvious for you to do so, and she would know what you were doing. That doesn't necessarily mean good or bad. It just means it would be obvious. Like, especially sitting right in front of her, there's no way you're going to be able to conceal it.
All right, as long as it's safe, should be good. So I'll just continue on.
Sure. Yeah, you haven't noticed anything suspicious or negative about her, anything that gives you any reason to feel unsafe around her at all. So, all right. So she, you reach out. You grab her hands. Her hands are, elbows through her wrists are flat on the table. Hands are up, and you're kind of holding her upturned hands. And similarly, her head kind of leans back. She closes her eyes, and the room begins to dim. Ketis, you're now standing kind of in front of the fire, and you notice how all the light starts to kind of fade out of the room somehow. There's still the fire there, but it just looks like you're watching it on TV almost. It looks like there's it's not giving off the kind of light that it should, or warmth for that matter. The room starts to feel a little bit colder too. And this time, as she holds her head back and begins this chant, Peter, you're actually able to make out the words a little better now that you know which one it is and that you're more familiar with, that you are familiar with the spell, but even, one that you've never cast before. But you're recognizing the chant a little better, although you're kind of seeing her chin move, rather than, seeing it from an angle to be able to make out all the words, but you're able to kind of much easier identify this specific incantation that she's going through. And as she reaches the crescendo of it, this time the string on the far right with the largest crystal on it, the string doesn't seem to move, but the crystal on it disconnects, falls to the floor, and even though it's barely falling and probably shouldn't, based on the distance or the kind of structure of the crystal, probably shouldn't shatter, but as the second it hits the ground, it shatters and little bits of crystal roll across the floor until one of them hits you in the boot, Ivara. Just kind of taps against your shoe with one little chunk of it. She goes silent for a second, and this time she says, seek the quarry. Your path must not end there, but it does travel through. Imminent destruction comes from below, and before you can learn how to stop it, you must learn what it is you must stop. Turn your eyes to the quarry. You're not ready to face what awaits you there, but you must know its bladed mouth. That. And then her head tilts back up. This time, as she was finishing as the crystal kind of fell, and then she's finishing that whole chant, the shack itself feels like it's shaking a little bit. Both Ketis and Ivara, Peter, you're kind of just staring transfixed at her, so you don't really feel or notice this portion of it. But Ketis and Ivara, you have the feeling like the place is shaking, but you're looking left and right, and it doesn't. The place is still, nothing's moving, but it almost feels like there's like a small version of that tremoring earthquake, let's say. But she finishes the chant and she kind of settles herself back up, looks, kind of shakes her head a little bit, eyes opened, looking back at Peter. She says, well, that one sounds a little scarier than the first. I don't rightly know really what to tell you about that one, but I mean, if you've got questions, I'll do my best. Any questions for her?
That's pretty straightforward for me.
I guess we'll answer that portion of it first. Ketis and Ivara, any questions or anything?
I don't think so.
Peter, she looks at you and roll a perception on Peter. Okay. This is only for Peter, so I'm only going to send it to him. You're welcome to share it as you would choose, but I'm going to try dropping this on Peter and see if it works this way. So only Peter should see this. Tell me if you guys see it also. Just tell me. It's not going to hurt anything. Just tell me if you see something.
I don't see anything so far.
Okay. All right. So Peter, did you see something?
Yes, I did.
All right. So she looks at you, and in your head, you hear her shout that at you very loud and very aggressively. But you hear her voice in your head, but there's nothing verbal. Her mouth didn't move.
Let me turn my head to the right now and see what's going on.
You turn your head to the right, and you see Ketis and Ivara standing there in front of the oven. The room has returned to its normal light. There's no light coming from the crystals. Everything seems still. Everything seems normal. You see exactly what you would have expected to see. You do hear a bird whistling coming from outside. You presume it's Wallace. Just enjoying the day.
Gotcha. Okay. I'd like to thank her for her time and slowly stand back up and kind of turn towards the team and see what's going on.
So, all right, she kind of stands up as you do too. Then she says, "Well, it's always a nice little adventure doing that. I kind of miss it when townsfolk don't come by so often anymore. So, now that this dome goes up, we don't get people from out of town coming by, and it's always nice to kind of flex your wings, huh?" And she winks at you, Peter.
I acknowledge the wink and nod my head.
She says, "All right, well, certainly I'll get you guys another," and she reaches over, grabs the basket that she'd given you the honeyed rolls from. I promised another honeyed roll, and I certainly wouldn't take that back, so please, eat up, enjoy them. Is there anything else I can do for you?
I don't think so. Yeah, thank you.
She says, "Well, I mean, if you guys need some more, little nudge in the right direction, you just come on back. I'll do my best." And she's kind of, motioning you towards the door. She's not pushing you out, but if you guys didn't have any other business, she's just going to go back to her baking.
All right.
All right. I think I'll lead the pack and I'll leave the house with them. And as soon as I exit, we'll turn right and see what's going around.
Okay. You step out, look off to the right. You don't really see anything that stands out to you. You see the collapsed temple off to the south a little ways. There's a little kind of divot in the ground where it seems like there's a small slope that leads towards the side of the dome, but that's off to the left of you. Well, sorry, you're right because you're coming out facing south. Nothing. You don't see anything that stands out. Everything seems exactly as you saw it on your approach. But you're now standing outside. The door kind of claps shut behind you. Wallace is standing out there. He the bird gives you a equivalent of a bird grin where it kind of dances from one side to the left. It was still singing its song when you came out. He says, "Well, she's always been a lot of use for us townsfolk. So I hope you got something out of that. You guys ready to go off and look for Isaac?"
Let's do it.
On the walk here, you guys didn't see anything that would lead you to Isaac necessarily. So Wallace says, "Well, I didn't see him in town, and I've been looking all around. So, I guess we can just head on back to the office and maybe wait for him there. He always, comes back usually in the afternoon anyway, so he'll probably be here soon. Come by, get lunch or something. So, how's that sound?"
Sure.
So you guys kind of gather in behind him. He's just whistling his tune. Whereas earlier, basically he feels perfectly safe around you guys, so he's not kind of corralling you in front of him. He's just walking along politely with you guys, either beside or behind him, making your way back towards the sheriff's office. We've got about 10 minutes left. If the time-wise, actually, you're coming up to about where the earthquake happens. You're 11:28, so it's going to happen here in a minute. If there's anything in specific you guys want to do, as far as time-wise, for the 10 minutes left or so, that's before Sako needs to go. So we could probably this would be a good point to call it, I guess, is what I'm saying. Unless there's something small you guys want to do in the meantime.
I don't think so.
Peter?
Am I able to share what was going on?
Yeah, of course. So you, that's up to you, I guess is how I'd say that. I won't make the decision for you guys on what you tell each other. So it's important that you guys do share if things are going to be relevant, but if there's something you wanted to keep to yourself, of course you can. But I can't assume for you that you do share information. That's why it's so important that you tell me if you are that you say it, at the table essentially. If, for example, while you were in the quarry, and Ben and Becky heard those things, but Kitas and Navarra didn't know about that. So if Peter doesn't tell Kitas and Navarra that Hetty was in the quarry and that he got, brained with a shovel and then blown up, if he doesn't tell them that, then Kitas and Navarra don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Can I whisper over to Kitas and Navarra real quick as we're kind of walking around?
Meaning you're trying not to let Wallace hear?
Yeah, is Wallace kind of far enough out that we have private words?
So he, like I said, because he's trusting you guys, he's walking far enough ahead that if you wanted to, step back, let him get 3 feet ahead or 5 feet ahead or something, there wouldn't even, I wouldn't even be a roll for that because, he's not trying to keep an eye on you guys. He trusts you enough for something like that, sure. So yeah, of course.
All right, as we're walking, I'm going to kind of give a little nudge to Navarra and Kiedis to slow down a sec, and I'd like to kind of whisper a few things to him.
Okay. What are you telling him?
All right, so we all heard the imminent destruction comes from blah, blah, blah. Go to the quarry, right?
Yeah.
She seemed like she was trying to put something into my head. She immediately told me to turn right, turn right. So I guess you saw me look to the right, and that's kind of what was going on. So I'm thinking that might be something for the quarry. I can share with them what happened to me at the quarry, right?
Yeah. Well, that part you
I think we
well,
already did.
yeah, you told me that you did. So, I mean, that's up to you on how much you shared. But you told when you guys got to the jail this time for this loop, when you first got there. Was that the last loop? That might have been the last loop. I don't remember.
Oh yeah, that's right. Shared in the morning.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So you guys, that was when Ketis went around back to mend the wall.
I'm thinking maybe turn right might be talking about the quarry paths because there were multiple forks in the road.
Cool. All right.
Okay, so you guys have shared that then. As you are coming around the front of the judge's mansion, which is basically that's Isaac's house. That's where Isaac or whoever the current judge of the town is, which is, think of it like a magistrate or a mayor. Whoever the current one is lives in that house, which is the largest in town by far. It's also the one that the clock tower keeps falling on when the clock tower falls. But you're coming around the mansion there, and the earth underneath your feet begins to shake. You're all kind of going a little slowly this time, and just kind of enjoying the little walk. It's not really a rush or a tense moment, so you're not really caught off guard or anything, especially because you kind of knew this was coming, since you were kind of walking and facing the clock tower. So none of you are shaken off of your feet or anything like that, but the ground begins to shake underneath you. The bird hops up and then flips around and looks at you, and then you see kind of a look of panic almost on its face, and is kind of checking to make sure you guys are okay, and then it flips back and it says, guys, I don't know what's going on. I gotta go check and make sure everybody's okay. And you hear the crashing of things coming from the south part of town, and you hear a horse whinny and then run away, and begin to run. So he says, you guys just, I mean, you can head over to the jail, but just stay safe. I mean, don't go getting yourselves in harm's way or anything. I'm going to check on folk and I'll come and find you. Okay. And he's already started to run off as this happens. And you guys are now standing basically, you see where the statue, basically you're close by the statue where the, of Jack and June and the visitor, the 3 people in the statue. So you're basically standing by that when this earthquake happens. And we will go ahead. Like, is there anything you guys want to look for? Anything else, or we'll go ahead and end the session there?
I don't think so.
No, I'm good.
Navarra?
Not that I can think of.
Cool. All right, then we will go ahead and end there. Let's see, what does next week look like? Regular Sundays will be normal from now on.